What is going on? No horsing around family. Zach Boyd, Stephen Burton back at it again. It's our Wednesday live stream like we do every single Wednesday. Hop on here and have some of the usuals around. We get to meet new people. Pretty cool. Already got Wyatt in the chat as well as Dylan first to ring the bell today. Dylan Durnall, he loves the podcasts. Dylan, we love you, brother. Thank you so much. As we're almost, Stephen, right before we started this podcast, how many people are we away from getting to the 2K? We're 5 away.
So I think it's 5.
If you haven't joined the family, take this time to join the family. And, we're just going to have a discussion. It's going to be wide open. We usually get started and then let you guys kind of control the chat, talk about the topics that you want to go through. It's going to be an even flow tonight, I think. There's going to be some positivity. Might be some negative things sprinkled in there, but I would say negative would be more attached to reality. It's not going to just be this, oh my gosh. But we have to live in this world of reality. And the reality is, let's just start right there. Hey, Rob, thanks for hopping in. The reality is that we fell under 500 last week. Took it on the chin, man. I mean, losing, with under a minute in that football game, losing with under 30 seconds in that football game. Difficult. And it just seems like that we are now, hey, Truett, how are you? Seems like we're now in kind of this weird limbo, Stephen. I'm interested to get your thoughts on this. Still trying to compete, not waving the white flag, but starting to make some moves that maybe have one eye pointing forward to the next year as well. Man, as a fan, I just want to win. I just want to play. I just want to root for Sam. I just want to scream till I'm hoarse for Sam Ehlinger to come out here and have this magical, 10-game stretch here. What say you, man?
Man, so I'm the same way. Like, as a fan of the team, I'm always going to root for them to win. Like, it was heartbreaking to watch, And you can say, well, the lazy argument to me is like the defense gave it up at the end, and they did. But when you hold a team to 17 points, like, you should be able to win, right? Your offense should be able to put up a few more points, which FYI, by the way, if Pittman makes that catch, I think we win the game, and you would have been 1 point off on your prediction, by the way. It would have been 19-17, and you predicted 2017. You were pretty damn close, man. I mean, it is interesting. You heard a lot of names going into the trade deadline. I think everyone was really surprised at the name that hit, which was Naheem, and that he's gone. That didn't feel like one. Listening to Pat McAfee today talking to, like, when you're talking about kind of waving the white flag, he had a really good conversation about it when he was – because, we always say he's the loudest, proudest, and the biggest microphone for Colts Nation.
Sure.
And he brought up that no player is going to wave so player and coaches are not waving the white flag. That is 100% true. They're not, because they don't want to put bad tape out there for their careers. For an office, very well could be. But the question then lingers, and we can talk about this, is some of these moves have got me wondering too, and I've seen it kind of sprinkled out there a little bit. Are these guys safe? Like, is Ballard safe? Because more Ballard than Reich, I think. Is he safe? Has he been told he's going to get one more year? Because some of these moves, you kind of sit there and go, man, like, you're going to probably have a losing season potentially, right?
Yeah.
And you wouldn't make that move if you think you're going to get fired, right? I don't know. It's weird. Yeah. It's a weird kind of limbo.
Be interested to know what the actual conditional part of that pick that could turn him from a 6th to a 5th. We also got Zach Moss. Little scouting on him. I did. He's a very, very good pass blocker. But my man he has a real fumbling problem, and I think that's really what he had. He kind of fell out of favor when it comes to all of that. So be interesting to see what we do. I just hope as the fan in me, I just hope we just continue to compete as long as we can. We've got about a 2-game stretch here where we got 2 games that we could win. We could be in there. Getting through some of these comments, why, Sam's audition for franchise got off to a good start. Belichick will be a next level test. Man, he is the rookie killer. I mean, there is no doubt about that. I mean, he's going to throw everything but the kitchen sink at him.
Did you see what they said? Sorry, I know we're going through the cons. Did you see what was reported today? What Ehlinger, what Sam did? Where it
No.
was reported, I think it was Kiefer or Holder said that it was during media availability. They were talking to Stephon Gilmore, and as soon as it was like game prep time, Sam went to Stephon and was like, "Tell me everything I need to know about what Belichick's going to throw at me." So I mean, I like that. I like that he's picking that guy's brain.
Of course, of course. Hey, yo, how are you doing? Let me get Corey up here. Is it too early to bench Brian Kelly and put little Danny Pentner from Ball State in there?
We have to make a T-shirt.
Hey, little Danny, we're gonna print them. I don't know how, I don't know when, but we're gonna print them. Everybody, get in line. Go ahead and get your ticket for that right there. Those little Danny T-shirts. AL thinks that Sam starts to take deep shots. Well, he's already taken a couple. He had a really nice hit on, with the Pierce throw. I think it was 47 yards.
Really
His
nice looking.
best throw of the game, though, Steven, was the one you mentioned earlier, was to Michael Pittman Jr., was an absolute big time. I mean, that's an NFL throw, man. I mean, that is
Perfect.
On a rope. I mean, you just cannot, under those circumstances, that's a dream come true. I don't care who your quarterback is under center. When that happens, you got to catch that football. I'm not going to sit here and shit on Michael Pittman on this podcast. He's been so good for us, so reliable. Didn't catch the football. Had the ball right there in the hands if you watch the replay, and just lost that concentration and let it come right off of it. I mean, he was ready to go. And how much different will we be talking about Sam Ehlinger right now had he caught that football and we would have, and got out of bounds and maybe had a chance to kick a field goal and walk off there at the end? That would have been interesting to know. Let's see what reserve Moss is garbage. We just added Jordan Wilkins to the practice squads. We didn't need a running back. I think that has more related to the fact that Jonathan Taylor's not going to be active and not going to play this week.
The Jordan Wilkins pickup came after the trade.
So
it wasn't before.
And that's just a familiar face. I think they want some new bodies. I think they want to start looking at some other people, some other, things when we talk about with one eye looking forward to the future. These are some moves that you're kind of making for now, of course, but it looks a little bit like you're looking down the road a little bit as well. Let's get Spooks out here. I don't think Frank had a choice. It was Brady or him. It looks like the head coach is on the chopping block. Who's next? Probably not going to get into that on this pod today. But I think we're going to have plenty of time and plenty of opportunity to talk about who's next.
Well, and I want to say one was, I have Pat McAfee running or something like that sometimes in the background at my office. And when people are talking about the O-line coach, right, and why have we not fired him? He had a guest on the other day, yesterday when we fired Brady, and asked him why not fire the O-line coach. And the guy had an amazing response that I hadn't thought of, which is it's extremely difficult to fire position coaches in the middle of the season because there's one, maybe two other assistants in there that are nowhere near prepared to step into actually leading a position group. So they always it's the coordinator that goes. It's going to be the coordinator because it's really, really hard to fire a position coach.
Yeah, Mike says, a shout out to Mike as well. He says Frank is next. Mike, you might be right.
Pan up. Afternoon, fellas. What time is it where you're at?
Exactly, man. Afternoon. I mean, it's looking pretty dark out here.
I know,
man. But hey, love to have you on here. Also, guys, want to take a quick moment. Super big shout out to you guys. We're almost to 2,000 subscribers on YouTube, as well as if you want to join the likes of AO, you want to join the likes of Spooks, you want to join the likes of some of our other family members. We've got $1.99, $2.99. $4.99. It's just a donation, man, just to help the channel out, keeps us going, keeps us able to get new material, new microphones, new software. This streaming platform, StreamYard, that we provide this on, you kind of helps with all of those things. But if not, man, just keep doing what you're doing. Comment, hammer away. But we'd be super thankful if you guys want to go ahead and drop in one of those $1.99, $2.99, $4.99s as well. Let's just see what AL's got to say. Crazy offense is twice as good from here. Crazy if our offense is twice as good from here on out. I hope it's 3 times as good, if I'm being honest.
I would
You'd rather
take
me
just
sound
a
like a
little
Fetterman and
bit.
say good night, everyone. Which you would rather me sound like a Fetterman and say good night. Well, don't say good night for about another 50 minutes, man. I mean, hang out with us. Let us know what you think. Guys, what do you want to talk about? What is your biggest concern? How do you feel about the Hines trade? Do you care? Do you wish we wouldn't have? Are you thinking it was a really good idea? As well as what's your reaction to Sam? I mean, what do you feel about Sam? Do you feel better, worse, or about the same, about what you expected when it come from Sam? Steven, I'll go first. I'd love to hear what you have to say. And I thought he played really solid. He didn't do anything for me. The only thing I'll say is this, and a little bit of this sucks because if Pittman would have caught that football, I probably wouldn't be saying this, but he didn't do enough special things for me to make me feel like, oh my gosh, he's guaranteed. This is, now I get it. It's one game. I understand. I mean, it's one game. It's a part of a 10-game puzzle that we're going to figure out as the season goes along. In that game, I'll say this one game, the only game we can judge him by, I thought he looked really solid. He had that boneheaded fumble, but he recovered really well after that. He really started to open it up. You could tell he got more comfortable with his legs. He does add a different dynamic to this offense. There's no doubt about it. And I like his confidence, man. I think he's going out there and he's got everything to gain and nothing really to lose. So I mean, for me, Sam, I think not 2 thumbs up, but I'll definitely give him 1 thumb up.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think, I think he was better than what everyone thought he was going to be. I think he gets labeled a lot being the 6th round pick, and how quickly he moved up the depth chart too. I talked about it in the instant reaction video. Like, I think you're right. If Pittman makes that catch and you win the game, we're talking a whole different kind of thing. I
Yeah,
I'm interested to see also how it progresses, because I don't think, we heard before the playbook was going to be about 20% different. I didn't see a lot of difference besides a couple more rollouts, him using his legs. I think you could definitely see that. I think he has a really strong connection already with Alec Pierce and Michael Pittman.
yeah,
Um, and when you talk about like special plays, some of it is not just him. It's got to be the other teammates making the play. Like first quarter, first drive, he makes that play, that odd turnaround, flip around, run, and he hits JT in the chest, and JT drops it on the 3rd down. He's got
yeah,
to get some help. I'm with you. It's a 10-game puzzle. I've seen a little bit now. It's nothing to write home about. 200 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. The fumble was horrendous, right? You did move the ball. He said it after the game. You moved the ball kind of at will a little
yeah,
bit. I mean, between the 20s. I mean, we said it. 6 drives, I think, is what it was. 6 drives that were inside the Commanders' 30, and you didn't come away with enough points. So I was pleasantly surprised, because even as big as what I want him to be, I had tempered expectations. I think it is really funny. You see a lot of people saying things already, and it is true. Look at his draft class. I put a tweet out that put it. He was one of only 2 quarterbacks from his draft class. That's like Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, who threw for over 200 yards, and none of them were in their first start ever. So
yeah.
I mean, his
Quan,
confidence goes a lot.
Quan's got something to say here. Sam would have had 2 TDs. The PI on Campbell's would have been 6, and Pittman run around the corner of the end zone. Yeah, shoulda, coulda, woulda, Quan. I mean, he had some opportunities. There's no doubt about it. And I think the theme of the whole year is that the Indianapolis Colts have just shot themselves in their own foot, right? They've drove all the way on the other side of the football field, and that's usually where they turn the football over. When they're just about in scoring range, field goal range, getting ready to go. It's just that way. Let's get through some of these. Sam did okay by me. I was expecting complete train wreck after seeing the film breakdown. 3 missed TD passes were disappointment, but as you say, it is his first game. Paul is going to say it's going to be 3 years before we'll be back. At least we won't get the Super Bowl contenders every season now. Hopefully we get a bunch of coaches also. We'll see, man. It's going to be interesting as far as that goes. Yeah, I think one thing, to kind of piggyback off of what you said as well, Sam, I thought the coaches as well in the first quarter at least held him back a little bit. They had a real conservative, like a 3rd and long, where they just like did a delay handoff to Jonathan Taylor that just kind of went for nothing. As the game went along, you could tell Sam started to let it rip a little bit. That really nice pass. And I'll tell you something a little bit different, a nice little wrinkle. How about Paris Campbell on that jet sweep? That was a nice little play, a nice little wrinkle to throw in there. And that's what we really thought Paris Campbell was going to be when he came here and he got drafted before this just unbelievable rash of injuries that he's had, in his young career. Man.
Well, and to piggyback with that, like what you're saying with that, and is that's something that me and you talked about. Is I loved with Sam's ability to run and use his legs. I loved it was the drive where he fumbled, but leading into it, the wrinkles they used to get yards rushing, Paris, and then kind of like end arounds, and just the things that they did. They got really It was Frank Reich a la like 3 years ago. Like it was very creative play calling, and it's the first time we've seen that all season.
Yeah, I'll say that too. And Paul and James kind of got a little conversation going too. Love this. James said the coaches are not the problem. Maybe he answers it here. Stop listening to the hype of the media. People don't run the game from experience. Well, then, James, we would like for you to comment on what is the problem. If you're going to come out here and you want to say something, we love that. That's why we always throw these comments up. What is the problem, man? I mean, in your opinion, as a fan, as a loyal Colts fan, what do you see needs to be fixed? If that's not the problem, we're obviously not winning football games. Do you see that as an upper management decision? Where are you at when it comes down to that? Let's see. We'll go through some other stuff, Paul. I said 3 years. That includes rebuilding the roster with new coaches. Fair enough right there. Then we'll go to sweep was okay so long as it's very rare. The Wildcat seems to go. Hated that, even though it worked this time. Okay, fair enough.
Well, and I'll agree. The worry with the sweep is obviously right. That is a play an exact play that caused Paris to go out for the year.
Yeah.
So I get that. He's not Debo. Like no one's going to confuse him with Debo. He's not built the same way, but he has shown this season, knock on wood, when he's healthy and you get the ball in his hands, he is most definitely a playmaker. He can make some moves.
Yeah, I mean, definitely right here. To finish up on this one, James kind of come back with the ball. If Frank and Ballard stay on contract, they will be here for 3 years from now. I don't see that happening. If I'm being 100% honest, I think they're gone at some point. Maybe they survive this season. I think we'll get into that as we go down the road. We still have 9 more games to play. AO wants Sam to roll out and scramble. They got Alec, Paris, MPJ, definitely. And I think he started showing some of that. Be very interested to see how they utilize Sam this week, just from the standpoint that we know he's going against Bill Belichick. Belichick's so good at disguising against veterans, much less rookies, man. I mean, Steven, this is going to be a real challenge, but might even say a real opportunity for Sam. Because if Sam can come out on the road against a team like this and rebound after a heartbreaking loss that we had last year, that shows leadership. That shows, the ability to have some resolve. And that's just the way it is. I don't know. I don't know. As
Well, and
far
it's
as
interesting. I think with Sam too. I think everything that we had heard, right? The intangibles that we had heard about, the leadership, kind of the moxie a little bit, the gunslinger, not really the gunslinger, but kind of that confidence that he has. I definitely think we saw all of that. The moment never looked too big for him. I give him, everyone's going to always point out sixth round pick. You know, the moment was never too big. I think I'm trying to think of who said it because I think it may have been Zach Hicks, but I want to give credit, if I could think of who it was that with him, he's a guy who he has a ceiling, but he works extremely hard, right? And we've heard that before
yeah,
on other quarterbacks. I'm not saying like the one you always heard is like Tom Brady was never the most talented quarterback. And I don't want to get this misconstrued. I'm not saying Sam Ehlinger is Tom Brady, but they have a ceiling. But because of how hard they work, that ceiling can continually be raised. And
yeah,
they will always hit it because of how hard they work. So I came away impressed with too that he was very cool and calm like the whole game. Like you said, the best throw of the game was the throw he had to make. And
yeah,
he made it
yeah,
and it just got dropped. Like
yep,
he stepped up. He never really looked frazzled, which I like.
yeah. I'll say this too. You know, I think you could really tell now that the coaches are they're having a hard time trusting this offensive line as well. I mean, it's just there's just so many holes in there. How do you really game plan? A specific game plan where you do want to challenge teams down the field. If that offensive line can't hold up, I mean, my gosh, you know what I mean? When it comes down to it, um, that's the frustrating part for me because that was your identity, right? Every single football team, has to have an identity, and our identity last year was just run that football, man. I mean, that's just the way it was. AEO saying Sam's the next Drew Brees, but better, man. I'll take a I'll take 75% of that, man. I mean, I will do that. I will definitely do that. Truett's out there giving a little shout out to James. He's going to make him the VP of the Bucks, man. I mean, he's going to go there. Let's see what Corey's got to say. Can I give you one way to send Matt Pryor packing? I'm going to tell you right now. Uh,
Please God.
Matt Pryor equals not good. I'll just say that Matt Pryor probably should not be starting in the NFL. I mean, at this point, I mean, I think it's pretty. That's
Well,
pretty evident. Nomad, 100.1 QB rating, not a bad start. Not your first, not in your first start. Let's just I'll say this. I think you need to give Sam at least 4 or 5 games before you can really have any type of judgment when it comes down to it because he's going to see all different defenses, all different looks, really, really good teams, really, really average teams, teams that are not so good in this stretch. And I don't know, man. I mean, I think he deserves a fair and honest shot. I think if we could ever figure out a way to get that offensive line patched up, I think you could open it up with him and you might be able to do some really, really cool things. That being said, that's been a big if all year. Storm Pig
well,
in
and
here.
that's the thing too. Like right, like with Sam that we're talking about. I think the 10 game stretch is the 10 game stretch, right? And it's one of those funny things that we can sit here too and we talk about, hey, he had 200 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. He lost. He had 100.1 passer rating. And we can kind of fast forward and say, hey, let's say you had drafted a rookie. You would probably be thrilled with that in a first outing. But at the same time, like I think as Colts Nation and as Colts fans, this year specifically, the trust is like gone with everybody.
Yeah.
So do we trust any of what's happening when it comes to it? And you're right. Like I don't understand. Me and you talk throughout the game, even when you're at the game, and I don't get how Pryor is still in the starting lineup. I don't understand, and I don't understand why we keep seeing face on. We're seeing him less and less now, finally, but don't I don't get it. For somebody who wants to hold everyone accountable,
Yeah.
And Irsay seems to be doing that more this year. And Ballard and Reich are doing it a little more. I mean, I'm talking like with Rodrigo, like he missed a kick, they fired him, right? They're showing desperation more and for the accountability. I don't know how you keep trotting him out there. He is not an NFL. He is not a starting NFL player. Depth, maybe, but
Yeah.
he does not. He is a liability. And from everything that we've heard from like Jeff Saturday and everyone who talks about it, if you have one person on the line that doesn't do their job, it massively affects the entire line.
Yeah. I mean, there's
And
no
maybe if you plug him out and put Fries in, I don't know. Maybe that does change it a little bit because maybe then they're more cohesive. The thing with the line, and I want to get the chat with this, and I want to hear from you
This
too,
is a
Zach,
really
with
good
this.
point, by the way. I wanted to give this shout out to, you know, Breeze is much better comparison if Sam were to max out. You know, mustacheless Minshew is more reasonable. But hey, I mean, honestly, I mean, that's probably somewhere in between both of those. I mean, what is Minshew? Very accurate. He can move around. He's got this, a little bit of this swagger about him as far as that goes. I don't know. I think Sam's going to make the best of it. And I'll tell you this at the very least, when this season's all said and done, I think if anything will be proven, I think he has earned the right to be an NFL quarterback. Now, I don't know if that's a franchise starting number one level, guy you want to pay, millions of dollars to lead your franchise. I think the guy deserves to be in the NFL. He's probably a 10-year backup at this point. And what happens if he turns into something special? They have I know that Jim Irsay has a major belief in this kid and what he can do given the right opportunity. So we'll just see as far as that goes.
Hey Zach, I want to touch on one thing. So there's something in the James and Paul have been kind of going back and forth. I know we've seen it and everyone else has seen it. I want to just pop this comment, James. I've read most of it, but fans quit bashing them and they execute as players. I want to touch on one thing. So we talk about the coaches, we talk about the GM, and James. I will give James credit with this part right here. It is true. Players are the ones that play. At a certain point, like if we're talking about the O line, at a certain point, it is time for you to play, and the players have to execute. It's like the last play of the game against the Commanders. The players have to execute. The play was put in. Sam made the right call, the right read, put the ball in the right spot, and the players didn't execute. The players, I don't want it to get glossed over too, though. Like we throw a lot of shade like at Matt Pryor and stuff. A lot of the players are not executing this year on the team. And some of that's on the coaches, but I also do like some of it is on the players as well. Some of the players do not seem to be execute like I wanted to here's a question for you and for the chat. I don't understand how the entire O line, and no one can really say this. I've yet to hear a compelling argument for it. Is how has 3 all pros regressed so badly? It can't just be coaching. What is going on to where Quentin
Yeah,
Nelson, who is a future Hall of Famer, is on his back at least 2 times every game now? I
yeah.
don't. I've yet to hear a compelling argument from anybody on how does that happen, and it's not 100% on the coaches.
Yeah, I mean that's an honest that's an honest assessment. And to James' point, I can tell he's a passionate fan. Guys, one thing we've always said on this podcast is even if we agree with you or disagree with you, we want to do our best at shouting you out. So I want to get through a couple of his comments and I want to kind of go through those, in my honest opinion. If he says fans listen too much to podcasters and media and other ignorant fans, then they do the tape and the players. Well, I would say this, in my opinion, and maybe I'm grouped into one of these groups as well. Definitely a podcaster. The tape does not look good. Outside, we can separate the general manager, we can separate the coaching staff, and we can separate the players, and we can say this to be factual, right? Because it's a lot of speculation. What's going to happen with the coach? Who's it on? Offensive line coach, offensive coordinator, head coach, defensive coordinator, general manager. What you cannot speculate in is in the biggest moments, this football team has not come to play and not been prepared. They have fumbled the football. They have thrown the football away to other football teams, and they've just not been good starting games off, and they've not been good, quite frankly, in some of the most crucial moments. That doesn't mean it's all been bad. That doesn't mean they haven't done anything good this season. But when you have expectations, the way that you have expectations, you got to at some point to deliver. You've got a 6-year sample size for Chris Ballard, and he's basically he's ran in circles for 6 years. He's not gotten really any further or really any more behind, if we're being 100% honest. I mean, he's a tick above 500, I think, as his tenure's been as our general manager. Has a chance of going below 500, I believe, if the season, kind of goes south on us, which we all hope we don't. But that being said, I do get the passion from the fans. Look, I've been a fan for over 30 years, man. And like I said 2 podcasts ago, I'm going to be a fan for the next 30 years, right? But that doesn't mean that I can't be upset. I can't be angry. I can't be frustrated. And that's what we're here for. We want to use our voice. We want to hold, our players accountable, our coaches accountable, our front office accountable, our owners accountable. We hold ourselves accountable. When we're wrong, we'll be the first people to tell you that we're wrong. When we're right, every once in a while, we'll toot our own horn, pat our own selves on the back as well. But that being said, don't ever mistake what happens on this podcast as 2 guys that don't have passion for this football team. And regardless, if we lose the rest of the games of the rest of the season, guess what's going to happen? This time next year, 9:15 on Wednesday, we're going to be on this damn podcast talking about Colts football, because that's what we do. We love the Colts. Rant over. Moving on to the next subject. Let's get up. Oh, Nomad's in here, man. I hadn't seen him on here. His enthusiasm level is way down. Oh, Nomad. We got to get it up. We got to get it up, brother. We got to get ready for those Patriots.
One, that's a thing you can think about too. Like we joked going into last week, I think everyone had a little bit of a boost because it was like, we want to see what Sam does. And this weekend is the Patriots. I mean, I can be honest, watching a game and watching the offense is difficult. Like I joke with some of my buddies. I'm like, I don't know if you're not a Colts fan, I don't know why you're watching right now in some of these games. But hey, man, it is the Patriots. We hate the Patriots, right? Like, and personally speaking, I'm not a Mac Jones guy. So, like, I would love to beat Mac Jones. So, I mean,
or Zappy,
like Zappy. Oh, and like Zach said too, this is kind of it's interesting, right? Because the next 9 games it's evaluation time. Like, do we have a guy that we can trust at the quarterback position? And then as it goes on, do we have young players in other positions that we feel we can trust? Like, so it's kind of a fun thing. Like, it's not as fun as, winning, but it's an interesting, it's better than trotting out the same thing and trying to tell us that it's going to be okay. At least they're trying something. But yeah, man, I'm with you, Nomad. It's not the easiest thing in the world. Sometimes.
I think the good thing though is, Steven, honestly, like it's not like you have to completely rebuild a football team here. Like, you just go out and you make a few corrections and you're probably winning a lot of these games that you've been losing, if we're being 100% honest, just because of the fact that, you shore up that offensive line. You maybe get a couple more playmakers. I wanted to hit on this too, as far as Gus Bradley goes. This has been a very difficult transition, in my opinion, for Shaq Leonard, where he came from a defense where he was really free-flowing. He had the room. He had the ability to play in space a lot. Gus really kind of hones in on that middle linebacker position in a different way. A little bit more downhill, a little more sideline to sideline, but not as much coverage focused. And I think that's really sucks, when it comes to, your best defensive player. You don't really have that same defense that he's played all of these years. This defense is quite literally different when it comes to that. And I don't know that it necessarily caters to your best players. So that's just something to be thinking about as we evaluate, going down the road. But
Well, one
overall,
Ben too, Zach, with him is that he was injured all offseason. All
yeah,
offseason, all preseason, finally kind of got back in, got injured again. He's not taking the reps like Zaire has, like EJ has, like Bobby has to get adjusted. He's still getting adjusted.
and I'll say this too. Our defense has been pretty good this year. Now we've had some moments where we broke down, obviously, at the end of the game against the Commanders, but I mean, our defense has been pretty good. We're holding teams, generally speaking, 20 points or less, and that in the NFL should be good enough to win the lion's share of the games that you play. We've just been anemic on offense. We just can't get going on that first drive, and even in that first quarter, we're always playing from behind. I think it was a stat 10 straight games we've been behind at halftime now. So
Oh, they threw the stat too that said,
a lot.
I believe it was every game this season we have been trailing going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah. I mean,
I mean, you're playing from behind is tough.
yeah, and constantly having to play from behind and constantly playing catch up. And you got in this game where you were up 2 scores with 6 minutes left in the game, and then the wheels fell off.
Well, think about what was it? Was it Reich last year that talked about at the tail end of the season is that when you dig a hole in the season, you start like a 1-4 like they did last year, right? And you expend so much energy to dig out of that hole that the gas tank's empty. Like the gas tank's empty at the end of the season. Well, that's happening in games too. Like every game we're digging out of a hole, and it's just like at a certain point the gas tank is empty and you just are exhausted.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about that. Oh, yeah, it's just been a roller that we've been riding, and we hadn't had a chance to get off of it and catch our breath. Switching over to the Patriots, they got a little bit of a quarterback thing going on over there too, huh, Steven? I mean, they've got Mac Jones, they got Zappy. One guy plays better one week, one guy plays better the next week. Don't know who's going to start. Almost has a little bit of a college feel, right? Like when you got two quarterbacks who are kind of trying to figure it out, early on in the season before that coach decides who's going to be his true number one. He lets them both have, you go out for a couple possessions. No, you go out for a couple possessions. That being said, who do you expect to start in this game? If I had to say, okay, you guess who's going to be the starter, I'll tell you what, I'll answer first, and then I'll let you come back. I think it's going to be Mac Jones. I think it's going to be Mac Jones this week. That's my personal opinion. A lot of people think it's going to be Zappy, though.
I think, and I want to get everyone's opinion in the chat. Drop your guys' thought in the chat too as we kind of transition to talk about the Patriots. I'm on the same boat. I think it's Mac. I think part of me is I think he was not 100% healthy going into the game last week. I think he convinced Belichick to play him, didn't look completely right, and Belichick pulled him. As a Colts fan, I would actually probably prefer to see Mac. We went through the whole draft process, me and you, when Mac was coming out. And a lot of people had him mocked to the Colts, and me and you wanted no part of that, right? Like we wanted no part of Mac Jones coming to the Colts. And I think that's how I still sit. I think of every quarterback drafted in that draft, I think he's the worst starting one. I think he's not their franchise quarterback in a few years. I would prefer C Mac over Zappy. I think Zappy, there's something to him a little bit. I don't know, but I think they're going to trot him. He's got that little.
Zappy's got a little bit of a cannon on him. He's got a little bit of that chip on his shoulder because he went to a small school.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, I still think I still think that Mac Jones is the better quarterback when it comes down to it. I think he's going to do more for you when he's 100%. If they're both 100%, I think Mac Jones is the better quarterback. That being said, neither one of them got really head and shoulders above the other. I think it's just kind of a back and forth. Hey,
and they don't have a lot of playmakers. That's the other thing too. Like you've got and then they've got two. They got a defensive coordinator and a special teams coordinator running their offense. It's a very weird thing. I'm going to talk a lot of crap just because I don't like the Patriots. I just don't. I dislike the Patriots more than Zach dislikes the Titans. So I'm going to talk crap about a lot of those players on that team
Yeah.
because I've waited so long for them to not be a good, solid team, and they're not there right now.
I tell you one thing they've got to do too. I mean, one thing that I'm scared to death about as a Colts fan is that Belichick, when he sees blood in the water, he's going to attack that. On the defensive side, he is going to blitz, 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 and just bring a lot of exotic fronts to us because we've had a hard time keeping up with those guys. Just hard time blocking in general, if I'm being 100% honest. Now, on offense, I think he's going to try to pound that football. I think he really is. I think he's going to try to run away from Grover Stewart and really try to pound that football because there's been some teams that have had a lot of success when it comes down to it. Get to some of these comments. We'll go through, Pats are my number one hated team in the NFL. Can't argue with that. Another winnable game for the Colts should win. Also next week's game against the Raiders at Golden. That's a great point. 2 winnable games. Actually 3 in a row if you wanted to group that Commanders game in there. That's something to keep an eye on. Spook says, I think we will see both quarterbacks and Bill find out who they are or not. Wyatt comes out and says, does Shaq Leonard take another step forward to play this week? Could that make a difference? Absolutely, it could make a difference. We need him to be who he was. Even when he's not healthy, he still got the interception last week. Like he is a ball magnet. Yeah, I think James pipes in there and says, Pryor is trash and Faison is playing because, Gus Bradley loves him. Yeah, I think that's pretty obvious. I don't think Brandon Faison really should ever play another snap for our team for the rest of the year, but who am
So
I?
I have a question as we read Gordon. We don't have a wide receiver one, never mind QB. They did Matt Ryan awful. Hashtag fire Frank Reich. Firing Brady did nothing. Hey, let it all go, man. Let it all go. Just let it all out. I did have a question when we talked about the wide receiver one. We were talking about what Belichick likes to do, blood in the water, things like that. He always looks to take away your number one threat, right?
Right.
So if JT's in the game, he's looking to take JT away. JT doesn't. Let's say JT don't play, right? Like me and you are kind of thinking he doesn't. Who's he taking away? What's he going to look to take away?
Well, I think he's going to abandon the run. Now, one thing that there's been a misconception this year is that teams have loaded the box against us. I honestly, we are the second least fewest amount of loaded boxes. We face the second fewest loaded boxes this year of any team in the NFL. At this point, they don't think our offensive line can block anybody man to man. So that way, Belichick can play that real sticky coverage all the way on that back end. And I think he's actually going to bracket Pierce and Pittman Jr. I think he's going to give those two. He's going to say, all right, listen, they have 2 playmakers, and that's about it. We're going to bracket those guys. We're going to spy on Sam and watch those legs just in case he decides to take off. Other than that, I don't know who the go-to is. I'd love to see to get the tight ends a little bit more involved this week. But, we'll see. Let's get through some of these comments. First time all season hasn't been limited on the injury report. Yeah, I mean, let's just keep it rolling with him. Let's get him out there. Sorry, Zaire. He will take it away from Moss. I don't know. I don't know how much Moss is gonna. I don't know how much.
I don't
Moss
think he's passed his physical yet, has he?
Yeah, I don't know. He'll play, but I don't know. When it comes right down to it, let's see. Did Zaire and Shaq trade snaps? We wouldn't want to have both of them out there full snaps, would we? I don't know. Probably not. I expect an uptick in plays this week.
I like Corey's comment about Marcus Brady had a lot to do with game planning and play design. Even though Wright calls the plays, it's Brady that designed them. I think, the overwhelming thing is that we've learned with Brady being fired and what's going on this year is we really miss Sirianni. Like Sirianni, I know a lot of people say he didn't call plays either, but from everything we've gathered, he was the one person in the room that would tell Frank no. He was his sounding board. Sirianni is a great coach. even though you don't call plays, like look at the coaches that have come out from not calling plays. Like Peterson didn't call plays. Um, I'm trying to think of who else. Sirianni didn't call. There were several other ones that don't call plays, and they've done really well. I think the other thing too is that I think it's easy for us as we look at this season too to negate and forget the amount of quality coaches that the Colts lost in the last 2 years,
Yeah,
right? Like when Sirianni left, me and you were talking. I don't think I've seen a staff gutted the way the Colts were that offseason for a team that didn't win the Super Bowl. Like the amount of coaches that left off of that staff, and then Eberflus leaves the following season, the amount of coaches that went with him. It's
yeah,
it's been a very large overhaul of the coaches,
that's a
and
great
I think
point.
that gets lost.
Yeah, I think White pipes in and says Big Q had a belly full of getting his butt whipped yet. Return back to all pro level and smash mouth.
God, I hope so.
You watch some of those films, Wyatt, and it's just there's a weird demeanor and body language. I gotta give a shout out to my best friend Corey. He mentioned that. We just had a phone conversation the other day. Um, Weird body language from Big Q. One thing that Big Q was really known for, and I didn't even think about this, and he brought up a very good point. You know how he used to always run down, be the first person to pick up that running back after a run play, or first person to pick up that wide receiver when he went out and blocked? You don't see that demeanor, that body language from him. Um, just kind of a weird vibe when he's out there. He doesn't look confident. He doesn't look like he's playing angry. He looks like he's just kind of just disheveled, honestly. Like he looks like he's just so head on a swivel. He just doesn't feel confident in his assignment. Um, I don't know. I mean,
Do you think
it's
injuries? Someone brought up the amount of some of the injuries that he's had lately. Between the back and the foot over the last couple of seasons. You think injuries have anything to do with it? You think maybe he's not really 100% that we know of?
haven't heard anything about it. If he is, he is, but I haven't heard anything about it. It's been a weird thing,
It's
and
just
just a
odd.
regression, as you mentioned. Three all-pro level linemen that all decided in the same season, hey man, let's get together and let's all regress at the same damn time.
Mhm.
Um, Guys,
I
this is
love
our
this.
this is our segment of the week. Should we bring in little Danny Pender to the starting lineup? Is little Danny coming in this week? Would you replace Ryan Kelly with little Danny? We want to see those hashtag little Danny's in the comments so we can just pop them up. By the way, who
I
wants
I love Wyatt's comment real quick too. I asked about Big Q playing healthy, and he said, "Is he just playing wealthy?" I was like,
that's,
I love it. And I
that's
have
great.
to. We've seen it
That's
hit the
good.
chat. I do have to do one thing. Herbicide. It's a little higher up, so I'm not going to click on it. Hey, shout out to your Seahawks. Gino looks great. Herbicide asked earlier about the Seahawks. Been a fan, has been on this show since the beginning, since we played the Seahawks week 1 last season. So I want to give Herbicide the due. Seahawks look really, really good. As far as what we're
Gino,
going to do at quarterback, I don't know.
baby. That's gonna be something right there. Looky here, we got the hashtag little Danny Johnny Gilbert coming in there. Who wants to see little Danny in there to replace, go out here and replace Ryan Kelly? Come on, man. Hashtag little Danny. Let's just do our thing, man. Let's get Nomad. I will miss Hines flips in the end zone. Me too, brother. He was a great Colt. Pretty cool dude. I always felt like he did a really good job, Stephen, of interacting with, even content creators like us as we were down there. He kind of was interactive a little bit. Um, yeah, cool guy. You're going to root for him, no doubt about it. Probably the biggest thing that happened from that, and no one's really talking about that because they're just looking at the compensation. We no longer owe him that $13 million over the next 2 years. That
Mhm.
was a steep price tag for a guy. If you're not going to use them and not going to utilize them the right way, come on, man. I mean, this guy's, a
Well, and
top
that's the thing with
10.
him too,
Oh,
right? Like we can love him, and cat out of the bag. Like I had talked. Me and Zach knows. Like we had talked to his agent several times. Could never just get it really lined up to come on the show. Was willing to several times, just could never really get it lined up. But I mean, I love Naheem. We all do. fifth rounder for your essentially kind of your second to third string running back who you're not utilizing in the best way possible. I don't know what else you could have probably tried to get from. I had heard they wanted a fourth
Mhm.
rounder, I think. It didn't look like they were going to get that. So they went with what they needed. I think it was mentioned way earlier in the chat too. Ballard tries to do right by the players. I'll give him that. He could have sent him to a junk team. He sent him to the Bills. I think he's going to do really, really freaking good there.
Yeah,
There's
man.
a lot of little Danny in the chat.
Almond butter 860 hashtag little Danny. Let's get him. Come on, Nomad. Get him with that that hashtag Danny Pittner. Man, yeah, it's Pinter. There's no doubt about it. I say it weird. I say
Is he now the most popular player on No Horsing Around? It seems to be.
Danny can't play center. He can't cover all three. Nelson lost his hunger after signing that huge contract.
It's a great question.
And it's odd.
It's really weird.
It is really weird. It's something to think about. I don't know. I digress when it comes to that. Guys, quick segment here. We always try to do it at the beginning, at the end. Thank you guys so much for joining the family. We've gotten almost 2,000 subscribers. I think we're only 5 away from hitting that 2K on YouTube. So big shout out to you. If you guys ever want to help out the channel, a lot of people have over the last recent weeks. You can hit that membership for $199, $299, $499, or just whatever. It doesn't really matter. Anything you donate will go to the channel, help us out with equipment, streaming. This allows us to be here. We certainly appreciate that. But if you can't, no worries. We love you here in the lounge. We love hearing you talk. Let's just see a couple more comments. I think we're gonna go, Steven. You good for about another 8 minutes? Let's about an hour wrap it up, and I think that'll be good. I'm not a fan of the guys demand a trade. I'm sorry if you signed a deal, bro. Actually, you know what? I think when it's all said and done, I think we're going to be better off not having him on the roster. Great guy, but I just don't think he's utilized well, and I think that money is going to be well spent down the road.
Well, and if you got a guy who demands a trade, you trade him. He doesn't want to be. Then you're stuck in this position of like, who is it? Elijah Moore, who's like, what's your chemistry like with Zach Wilson? I don't know. I don't get the ball. Or Brandon Cooks, who's not going to practice now because he wanted a trade and they didn't give it to him. Like you get that malcontent in the locker room. In our locker room, from what we can tell, I feel like it's like a Jenga a little bit right now. I'm not real sure what to expect.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it. Yeah, Chris should restructure the Hollis contract, the O-line's contract. I think is what he's trying to say. Think get that hunger back. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, these dudes are 1% richer, and it just is what it is.
I'm not going to pop a comment up, but I want to just really, really quickly, very briefly touch on this. I do not agree whatsoever with any comments about Ryan Kelly when it comes to something personal for him affecting his play and him not having like the mentality. I got no place for any of that. I got no place for hearing any of that stuff. So you can have that opinion. I love all your guys' opinions, but we got no place for anybody talking about something tragic having an effect on the football team when it comes to something like that. So I just want to touch on that real quick.
Let's see what we got here. We'll go to Gorn here. They got released.
Trying to figure out what he's trying to say there.
This is true. Lindsey is more of an elusive back. Man, yeah, our backs are going to look so much different now. I mean, you got Jordan Wilkins who could get brought up. You got Lindsey out there. You've also got Deion Jackson, who I think has filled in nicely. If I'm being 100% honest. Prediction time, Steven. I'm going to let you go first on this one right here. You give the prediction. We want all of your predictions right here. Put it in there, man. Let us know what your prediction is for the game. Steven, what you got, man?
Man, so I sit here and I'm trying to think. It's an away game. It's in New England. Sam starting. I went big last week. I had been very tempered with my expectations. I had done low scoring and I was pretty close. And then last week, I'm like, it's going to happen, man. Sam's going to have a big game. It's the Commanders. Okay. All right. I'm going to go Colts win. I'm going to go 21-17 Colts.
Okay.
I'm going to go low scoring. I think Sam takes another step, looks good. I think he gets probably his first touchdown in one shape or another. Ooh. But I think it's a low scoring because it's also going to be cold. I think they're going to look to really run the ball. I think the 20% of the playbook that changed, I think it's going to change probably by like another 20. They're going to feel more confident opening it back up a little bit more. I'm going to go 21-17 Colts.
I am going to go 16-13. Weird numbers. 16 because we love hitting that number. 16-13. Indianapolis Colts with a Sam Ehlinger run. He's going to run for a touchdown to win this football game. That's how we're going to win this football game. Sam's going to run for one that's going to be the only touchdown of the game for the Indianapolis Colts. We've got some Kenny Moore stuff in here. Kenny Moore's been playing better late this season. I don't know about Kenny, man. I mean, Kenny's just also, we talked about, before we get off here, we talked about Shaq, playing in a different defense and how that catered to him. I think Kenny also really got hurt by getting out of that Eberflus defense, the way they utilized him and played him in space. Now he's a little bit more man, and that's never really been what he's been. Let's start throwing some of these up. We got True says kills me with a patch 21-3. We appreciate your honesty. Colts lose 21-13 from Bobby. Nomad goes with Colts 2016. Right. Let's see what Wyatt goes with 23-20. Herbside's gonna go with 17-13. He's gonna bet 30 on his
Hawks out there too.
Hey man, good for you. You've had a great year. As far as that goes, I think that's about it, man. We've had a great show. We really appreciate all your interaction on this show. We've got to kind of talk to some new people. James, man, shout out. Thanks for staying on the whole time. We had a good time with you. Wyatt, Nomad, Bobby, Truett was cool. Herbside always, Corey Lampkins. We always forget some people, but I mean, we really, really, really have been grateful. AO come by. We did, Spooks came by as well. Goran, he came by. Hey, we had a great time. It was a good time interacting with you. We're going to see you again next week. Almond Butter look at this. We can throw them up here. 21-19 Patriots from D Love. Almond goes with the 24-10. I'm going to go with the Pats. That'd be a heartbreaker, but you know what? A lot of these guys thinking with their head, not their heart, probably a little bit smarter than I am when it comes down to it on that one. But that being said, Steven, you do the honors.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's one of those things. So the season has not gone the way we have all hoped. I think Zach said it best earlier in there. But the building of the No Horsing Around family that we've been able to do with you guys has gone better than we could have ever dreamed. We love being around. We love getting to talk to you guys. I love even tonight seeing like the back and forth between members of the No Horsing Around family just on their own in the chat, which is great, which is super fun to see. I know I feel like that it's therapeutic. This family time is always therapeutic for all of us. You just let it loose. Last week I think we went like 45 minutes of it was just letting loose, and then we kind of got into a little Commanders. So I mean, it's always fun for us. And in the end, I love you. Zach loves you.
We hate the Patriots.
I hate them. And we're out.